So, Andrew, while I was on vacation, I heard you were hosting Tommy Jude. How did that go?
Yeah, he did have me on his panel, and guess what? They turned it into a game of Stump Attorney Myers.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I have a little preview of where I was at the end of this video. So, what exactly happened on the podcast with Tommy Jude? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
So, Andrew, what was on the top of the viewers' heads while they were playing Stump the Attorney and watching your podcast?
Well, Tommy Jude has been following the case really closely, and he goes off on some tangents. That's fine. We're all different. But one of the things that his viewers really wanted to know from me is, why has this case been shrouded in so much secrecy from the beginning all the way to some crazy motion that's recently been filed? Well, I'll just say this. I mean, they've got to provide it to Mr. Kohberger's attorneys, Ian Taylor. I mean, if they want to play cute that, oh, yeah, we have information, we can't give it to you, don't fool around with me. Give it to Ian Taylor in advance of the trial, or it's not going to go in. I mean, in the Murdoch trial, all the stuff was provided by the prosecution to the defense.
Right.
And the prosecution and the defense had a good relationship, and the FBI went in with their cast report and everything else. And so if it's out there, produce it. If you're not producing it, you're full of you-know-what. That's
right.
all.
Well, then the way they're not producing it, that's what makes me wonder what they're trying to hide. You know what I mean? What is it you think? Why they won't give it to them?
Well, they always
they don't have it. They don't have it, like they say.
They always cite these 4 phony baloney reasons for why everything's secret in all of these motions to seal. It could, endanger. It could endanger informants. It could endanger a witness. It's bad for the public safety. Yeah, okay. I think one of the other reasons they should put a subset for. We don't know what we're doing. We made a mistake. We don't have the evidence. So. I hate to be that cynical, but at this point, a year and a half after the crime, they're still fighting.
It's just crazy. Do you actually think it's going to go to trial?
Of course. How could you say it wouldn't? I mean, Ian Taylor says he's innocent.
Yeah.
He wants to be exonerated. Why wouldn't it go to trial?
Well, there's a lot of people thinking that maybe Bill Thompson will fold
and dismiss the case.
Yeah,
and pigs will fly.
So is the PCA now irrelevant? And what's this motion that Ann Taylor filed?
Well, one of the things that Tommy and his viewers really wanted to know was, Ann Taylor, Brian Kohberger's defense attorney, filed a motion couched something like opposition to the state's motion to limit testimony. So we all go looking for the state's motion to limit testimony. It was not filed in the public docket. The title of it was filed in the secret docket that we talked about before, but the actual motion is nowhere to be found. Well, one of the things that Ann Taylor cited in her opposition was that the state had actually said that, and I quote, the probable cause affidavit is irrelevant at this stage. So a lot of us are trying to figure out what that means. And so they asked me, defendant's response to the state's motion to limit testimony. And in it, she says, in the state's motion, the state contends that the affidavit of probable cause is irrelevant at this stage. So, I mean, the state itself, the state is saying that the affidavit of probable cause is irrelevant. What the heck does that mean? I go back and forth. There's a couple of different interpretations, but it's all speculation because this is a response to a document that the state never filed. You can't find the actual state's motion to limit testimony. I've been watching the ICOR website. It's not on there. It says that it was filed on May 10th of 2024. It
It's
wasn't.
like they skipped right. Yeah, they skipped right over it.
And so I actually, I don't care. I'm an attorney. I called the court clerk's office in the 2nd District
Did you?
Division Court in Moscow, Idaho.
Uh-huh.
I got a voicemail. So I left a message, just simply, I've got this motion. I'd like to know what the other motion is all about. Could I please have a copy of it? And I said, if you can't post it on the ICOR website, could you fax it or email it? And I left my fax or email. And I also emailed the defense office in Lainey County to the attention of Ann Taylor. And I also emailed William Thompson. And when none of them got back to me, I knew it was them.
So if the PCA is irrelevant, what even foundation do they have for this whole case? How is Brian still in jail if they have decided that the PCA is going to be irrelevant now?
Well, that's a question that Tommy's audience had, but it's not really quite that simple. Again, we don't know what the state said in their motion, but we have to back up the bus a little bit, I told his viewers, because it's not really that simple. Well, that's a good question. I mean, they can continue to hold Mr. Kohberger because, then they went and indicted him. They went around, there was supposed to be this public hearing. And instead of going forward to the public hearing right about a year ago now, they went behind everybody's back and they did a indictment to a secret grand jury. So they can still hold him based on the grand jury indictment, but it speaks pretty poorly if it turns out that, the stuff that's in the probable cause affidavit is, fading away. It just, like I said before, it hasn't stood the test of time, has it?
Right.
So Ann Taylor promised she's going to file multiple motions to suppress evidence. Do we know, are there any clues about what this is going to be about?
Well, we can only kind of, prognosticate about it or make a little bit of an educated guess. She cited 3 cases in her motion. And so when Tommy's audience asked me that question, I said, well, let's make some educated guesses here. Ann Taylor, in her response to the state's mystery motion, cited 3 cases, and Yoli and I went over the 3 cases today, and the cases all kind of focus on secret informants, confidential informants, and the reliability of confidential informants. And Idaho courts in the past have played fast and furious with secret informants and kind of let them go under the radar. And there's a procedure in the Idaho court. Now, bear in mind, I'm only licensed in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, but, I'm able to do research. I'm able to look up cases, and I read the 3 or 4 cases that Ann Taylor cited in her response to the mystery motion. And they focus on probable cause and motions to suppress. So Idaho has Idaho has a specific procedure that was not followed in the Hosey case. And the case went up all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court told the district court, guys, you got to do this over again. And you got to follow the procedure. So the case actually didn't come out the defense's way in the end. But at least that case is precedent for the fact that an informant needs to undergo scrutiny in a specific type of hearing under the Idaho procedural rules to determine that secret confidential informant is reliable before that can be used to establish probable cause to get a warrant. So I find that really telling that she is citing these cases now when the prosecution is saying, well, the probable cause affidavit, it's irrelevant. Really? So
yeah. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever ran in your career? Have you ever ran across a case like this?
No, never. I don't think anybody has. I mean, that's why this case is blown up to the proportions that it has. I mean, a probable cause affidavit establishes a base. It's like cooking. You make a base gravy. But then you add to it, and you add
Right.
the probable
Yeah.
cause affidavit establishes a baseline. Okay, now we have probable cause. We can arrest and
Yeah.
hold. But then then they do research and they do investigation and then they build the case. This is
Right.
kind of like it's like building a skyscraper and they laid the foundation. Now they're halfway up to the 100th story and oops, the foundation's no good. So
Right.
it's so
Yeah.
Ann Taylor warned us all in the last couple of hearings that she's going to be doing motions to suppress, and so she, in my view, that's what she's laying the groundwork for now by saying, look, you don't have probable cause. If you have a secret informant, you didn't vet him out properly. And so remember in the last hearing, they were talking to the judge, the last couple of hearings, they were talking to the judge about having hearings every 2 weeks. Remember that?
Right.
So she's going to be doing motions to suppress. And I wouldn't be surprised if, a lot of the location data that the state claims that they had in the PCA is
to suppress. Now, Ann Taylor's going to be doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. She said in the last couple of hearings, she said, I am going to do motions to suppress. So what that means is
suppress what? What are they?
Evidence that the state may or may not have. Evidence that the state may or may not have.
So some of Tommy's viewers, and I imagine a lot of other people, are confused about the difference between the state of Idaho withholding evidence and the defense suppressing the evidence.
Well, I guess it can be a little bit confusing, because all the way along in this case, Tommy's viewers told me, and they were right, look, the state has not been forthright in, disclosing evidence. And there have been all these motions to compel and, motions for additional discovery. And so they said, so what's this if they're not putting out the evidence? What's this about motions to suppress? And so that was a good question. A motion to suppress says that for whatever reason, fruit of the forbidden tree, you got that evidence illegally, and so it should be suppressed. Let me give you an example. The first case that Ann Taylor cites is the state versus Thompson. Now, this is not Bill Thompson. This is Julie Thompson. And in that case, the state ran a pen register on Julie Thompson, and a pen register just simply tells police what telephone numbers were called by a telephone and how long those calls were. That's it. It's just a register of the telephone numbers that were contacted and how long the calls were. It does not provide the substance of the telephone call or the audio of the telephone. So the investigators started this pen register on poor Julie Thompson, and based on that, she was calling a drug dealer all the time. So then, based on that, then they got a warrant. They got a warrant to follow her, and then they found her going out and dealing drugs at various places, including an Idaho prison. So now Julie Thompson faces charges in the courts in Idaho for dealing drugs. Well, her attorney comes in and says, wait a minute. You did not have a warrant for the pen register. You just did it. So the court says, well, I don't know. And the court finally issued a motion to suppress the drug information that was obtained by wiretapping her phone. They said that the wiretap was illegally obtained because the police did not have a warrant for the pen register. So the motion to suppress the telephone calls was granted, and the telephone calls were all thrown out. Now, just as a side note, that's not federal law. That's not federal law. The United States Supreme Court has said a pen register does not require a warrant. But Idaho and the states are all allowed to have additional protections, and the Idaho Constitution and the Idaho Supreme Court do extend that additional protection. And so based on the fact that the Idaho law enforcement started this pen register without the benefit of a warrant, then the subsequent evidence was suppressed, and it's called the fruit of the poison tree doctrine because they got it illegally.
So I heard that Tommy Jude was characterizing your discussion as an attempt to stump Attorney Myers, but it sounds like some of his viewers actually had some insightful questions.
Yeah, they did. He invited me to be on his podcast. I hosted with him one other time a while ago, and so then they said, "Let's see if we can stump a Myers." So we're gonna see if they did.
What do you think about Ann Taylor coming out and saying she believes Brian to be totally innocent?
I don't think a lot of people realize how important that is because a lot of defense attorneys.
It is.
It's really important because a lot of defense attorneys will tell you correctly that their job is to make sure that their client has a fair trial. Now, I've done a little bit of defense. I'm not an expert at it, but I've done some defense, and I went to a seminar at one point of some really expert defense attorneys who are top of their game. And they said a lot of them agreed that they don't want to know if their client is guilty or innocent. They just want to be able to walk out of the courtroom when it's all done and know in their heart and their mind that they were certain to preserve the defendant's right to a fair trial. So that's what most of them feel like. Whether they don't want to know if their client is guilty or innocent, they just want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and that they, made sure that if there's a motion to suppress to be filed, they did it. If there's evidence to object to, they did it. And so, for her to actually come out and say that she believes that he's innocent, that's significant. That's really significant. So
I thought it was too. I thought that was underplayed, actually.
Yeah.
Because and especially being a public defender, that
right.
They usually just kind of go for the the best plea bargain, don't they?
I don't want to paint with a broad brush because public defenders, there are really good ones and there are other ones.
There is, yes,
but I think we talked about this in the other episode I was on with you. She's a level above average public defenders because she's certified for death penalty cases, and it's
correct.
It's a level above. It's a level
right. Okay.
I don't know if it was a really good analogy, but I analogized it to the difference between a regular driver's license and a CDL driver's license. I mean, most of us can get a driver's license. You read the manual, you go for the test. But to get a CDL, it's a level above, and you have a lot of constraints on you. You get busted for one DWI, you're done. So, so she's a higher level than the normal average Joe. And I saw one of your people said, do I think she's doing a good job? From what I see, I think she's doing a great job. She's pushing and pushing and pushing, and people don't like her. But so what? I learned a long time ago.
I love her.
I learned a long time ago that you set foot in the courtroom, 50% of the people are going to love you, and 50% of the people are going to hate you. So to the haters, read between the lines.
When she came out and said, she 100%, is behind Brian Kohberger and his innocence, that told me a lot right there. And then the way she just doesn't give up. She just keeps putting it out there. Yeah. And I don't have no qualms about her at all.
No. And she's go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Moonflower Lassa, Tommy.
Lassa, right.
Lassa, Tommy.
Lassa,
you know your people, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Tommy, if the prosecution cannot come up with the process they used to come up with Brian, will the case be dismissed? Well, I don't think it'll be dismissed, but it's certainly a factor that will weigh in the final analysis. I mean, the prosecution will argue. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just telling you what they're going to argue. They're going to argue that, well, hey, his DNA was on the sheath. So forget about the IgG DNA or the process by which we found him, because the DNA was on the sheath. So now the argument switches over to, is that reliable? And that involves at least two arguments. One is touch DNA enough? And I did an episode where I cited some courts that say no. And then the second argument is, so what is DNA is on the sheath? It doesn't mean it was on the sheath. That doesn't mean he was there. So that's my answer to your question. It's not a be all end all kind of a situation.
So you don't think it'll get dismissed over?
No,
over
not over that. No, it won't.
Okay.
It won't be dismissed. Not over that. No. A lot of people hold, there's these cases are like, I don't know, they're like a diesel engine. There's so many moving parts, and just because one fails doesn't necessarily mean the whole thing, fails. I mean, Andrew. Hey, Yoli, you have a question? Oh, there's your puppy dog. We both have dogs that have arthritis, so I hope your dog is doing well tonight. Andrew, what do you think of Cy Ray having a podcast? A lot of episodes. Do you think prosecution will try to watch those episodes to get some impeached statement? Of course they will. Yeah, people do that all the time. That's a new thing. Even in my personal injury cases. The insurance companies, I bring a claim for a car accident injury or a slip and fall injury or something like that. And the insurance companies have their people, they have office assistants, legal assistants, minions,
right,
sit in a skyscraper with nothing better to do between their lattes. And so, yes, right. they even on this low level, they screen for social media. And I had a case not that long ago where my client had been injured in an accident, and she ended up going to a third world country and helping them build a school and a water system. So, that's a very low level compared to this. This is a personal injury case with a mediocre local New England insurance company. So yes, absolutely. I think the prosecution will have someone watch every single episode. Just now,
do you think that's probably good, Yoli? I like that question, and the
great question.
It is a great question because especially after the last one that he put out on Colorado, it was like they come out with he got that one case dropped, and you can already see what's going on there, and then so he comes out
swinging
with he comes out swinging with the Colorado one to show that this is what really happened. And I thought
the first thing every attorney tells their client is don't make any statements to anyone about anything. And I do the same thing even in my personal injury cases. Don't talk to anybody about anything, and don't do anything on social media. So because of that. And so I'm sure Mr. Ray is a former police officer for many, many, many years. And as a guy who's testified in court for many, many, many cases, I'm sure he's smart enough to know to watch what he says, because absolutely the answer to my question is absolutely they will watch. To see if there's anything. They'll not only watch it, they'll record it and transcribe it and send memos out to everybody and digest it. And don't laugh. That's the way it works.
It's true. I'm laughing because I know it's true. Yep.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry.
Yep.
Good question though.
Yep.
And it looked like attention was all turned towards this Touhy process and whether or not they'll bring out some of the evidence that seems to have been hidden.
Well, that's what a lot of people thought, that this is some kind of a magical, legalistic kind of a procedure that will result in unveiling all the evidence that's been withheld. And that was the question that was asked. Here's the answer.
Now that they are operating under the, how do you pronounce that?
Touhy process.
Touhy process. Do you believe the FBI will turn over the cast report and not just a draft?
Well, I wish I had my graphic to bring up to you, because I did an episode on this, I think about a week ago, where I pointed out the Touhy regulations that the Justice Department has promulgated that apply to the FBI. And there are about 6 different reasons why they can refuse to turn over the information. One of them is to protect a secret informant unless that secret informant consents to the disclosure of the information. One of the other reasons why and this is all in the federal law, One of the other reasons that they can refuse to release the information is because of an ongoing investigation, that this might impede the ongoing investigation. One of the other reasons, which I didn't think of applying to this case, but it was impressed upon me that it does, is revealing trade secrets. The FBI can refuse to disclose information under Touhy if there are trade secrets. How does that apply to this case? Well, what if they're using software? Cy has his software. Certainly, the FBI has their software. What if they're using a Stingray, and that is a trade secret? Right? So there are a number of reasons enumerated in the federal Touhy regulations that validly allow the FBI to refuse to provide the information. So when people first hear about Touhy, oh wow, yeah, listen to this. They can send off to the FBI to get this information. Well, but if you read into the Touhy regulations, they can refuse for valid reasons. And the other reason, one of the other reasons is for procedural reasons. So if you've ever dealt with anybody ever at any level of the federal government, they can snare you up in procedural reasons from now to eternity.
So that whole episode actually went on a lot longer. So if you want to watch Tommy's full video, be sure to check it in the description down below. Now, I promised you guys a clip of my vacation. So here we go. Hey guys, it's Lainey Law in beautiful Puerto Rico. I hope you guys are having a wonderful time. I miss you guys very much. I put together some clips of my trip, so I hope you guys enjoy. Did you know in Puerto Rico you only have to be 18 years old to drink alcoholic beverages? Maybe that's why Puerto Rico is such a hot spot for many tourist destinations. Puerto Rico has a bunch of beautiful attractions like bioluminescent bays or their national rainforest, El Yunque. El Yunque is actually the only tropical rainforest in the U.S. National Forest System and housed some amazing creatures like the coqui. Puerto Rico is also known as the rum capital of the world and is home to 7 world-renowned rum distilleries like Bacardi and Don Q. During my trip, I actually visited Puerto Rico's oldest rum distillery, Ron del Barrilito. There's plenty of other beautiful things about Puerto Rico, including beaches as far as the eye can see, with bright blue water filled with fish. Whether it's visiting the bioluminescent bays, El Yunque National Rainforest, or Las Cuevas de Camuy, Puerto Rico has endless sights to see. All that being said, as much as I enjoy my vacation, I am so looking forward to seeing what everybody has to say in the comments and what you guys have been talking about while I was gone. So now that I've shown you a little bit about my trip, what's the last trip you've been on? Leave a comment down below telling me the most recent vacation you went on or a vacation you want to go on, and tell me some of your favorite things about that spot. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.
Wow, that looks like you had a fantastic time, and it looks really beautiful down there. I've never been, but now you've made me want to go. I've been to the Dominican a number of times, but I've never been to Puerto Rico, and I have heard from people that it's really beautiful. So what was your favorite part about your vacation, other than being away from us here?
Yeah, so as much as I missed you guys, I did have a wonderful time on vacation. Sorry, guys, that you couldn't all join me. Next time we'll bring all the viewers, right? But I had a really good time. We actually went to Puerto Rico's oldest rum distillery. It was called Ron del Barrilito. And we did a little tour where you get to see where everything's made. I'm not a big drinker myself, so I couldn't actually finish the drinks, but they give you a drink to have at the start, and then you get to actually make some of your own drinks. So that was a really cute experience. Did some laying on the beach. The weather wasn't perfect, so it was a bit rainy, so I didn't get too much beach time, but it was just beautiful. beautiful. We also went to see the Cuevas de Camuy. So we went on a little kind of nature walk into some underground caves, and it was just a really enjoyable time. And I'm glad to I got to show some snippets to you guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry that the weather wasn't that great, but it did look really pretty down there. Do you do any hiking or walking around in like the lush areas down there?
Yeah, it's actually funny, and I feel like, I'm sure that most of our viewers can relate to this. On vacation, I was so happy. It's like I'm getting 10,000 steps, I'm getting 15,000 steps, and now I'm back home and I'm out here like struggling, suffering, walking the dog, going back and forth, and I'm like 3,000 steps. No, so lots of walking in Puerto Rico, lots of nature. It's like everywhere you go, it feels like you're seeing new plants. It's really amazing stuff over there.
You mentioned the rum. An extended family member went to Puerto Rico. He actually has stayed down there extensively, and he came back and he brought a different type of rum. It was clear rum in a clear bottle. If we were going to have this conversation, I would have brought it down for a prop. But at the top, it has a little straw hat.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Now, like you, I'm not a big drinker, but one thing I love, and I'm saving it for this over the Christmas holidays, Puerto Ricans make a thing called coquito. Oh, I love that. Coquito. So I'm saving the rum. I'm saving the rum for Christmas, and I can hardly wait to make coquito with it.
That was one of the good experience that we had because up until this year, before I don't even know what happened, but I brought up coquito to my partner and he had never even heard of it, which is crazy because we've been together for 8 years. I don't know. So we were talking about it. I'm like, oh, I don't think we're gonna find you any coquito because as we're recording this right now, it's in May. This is, like Andrew said, a holiday drink,
right?
And so we were looking, like, not that we were looking extensively for it, but when we went to the Ron de Barilito, they actually have a bottled coquito that they sell in Puerto Rico, I think only, or sometimes maybe along the East Coast, but they were actually doing samples of that. So it was the perfect timing, perfect place. Definitely check out Puerto Rico for the holidays, anybody who's interested in it. So it's like a coconut, cinnamon, almost like, I forget what the nutmeg, eggnog.
Nutmeg and cinnamon go into it. Yeah, it's similar to eggnog, but it tastes totally different, right?
It's delicious. I don't like eggnog, but I love coquito.
Yeah, I love coquito. I don't do eggnog because it's just pure fat, and it's just like, but yeah, coquito. Now, we didn't talk about this before we started this recording session, but one year for Christmas at my house, we had 2 different people make coquito, and we had a contest as to which one was better. So we all drank it all, deciding which one was better.
The decision making was great after drinking all that coquito.
In the end, we really honestly couldn't decide because they were different. Different people have different recipes, but they were both amazing. So now I've made it in the past, but so I'll challenge you to a contest of coquito next year.
We'll have to have a holiday episode where we bring in our 2 samples of coquito. We both make it, and then we have to taste test. I've never made it before, so I feel like you're gonna have a 1-up on me, but we'll have to see whose is better.
Well, all right. So thank you for showing us about your vacation. That looked like a lot of fun. I hope that people take our advice here to subscribe and like and share, because all those things are important. So any closing thoughts before we go?
No, I miss you guys so much. Thank you for joining us in today's episode, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And Andrew, do you have any last messages for our commenters on their behavior?
Well, I always say be kind, be polite to everyone, no matter whether you're in the grocery store or at the gas station. You don't know what the other guy is going through, and I mean it sincerely, but especially in our comments down below. We don't mind if you disagree with us, although I don't know how you can disagree with what we were just talking about, but if you disagree with us, that's fine. Don't personalize it, because we do use the delete button. Other than that, have a beautiful, pleasant day, and we'll see you on the next one. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts, and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
That's that.
And that's that.